Okay, we'll start with a brief invocation, please. Thanks.
So I'm going to recite two slokams from Bhagavad Gita. It's from chapter 11,
Okay.
Rupa Darshana Yoga. So
Nice.
after Bhagavan Sri Krishna, he shows his true form to Arjuna. So the first two verses that comes in his mind. I mean, he's not even reciting those verses yet. This is from the perspective of Sanjaya as to what Arjuna sees. So he describes Lord Shri Krishna as like this.
Great.
Aneka vaktra nayanam, anekadbhuta darshanam, aneka divyabharanam, divyaneko dyadayudham, divya malyam baradharam, divya ganthanulepanam, sarvascharyamayam devam, anantam vishwatomukham.
Nice. Okay, so with that invocation, we'll get right to it. I have to tell everyone, first of all, welcome back, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this session. I prepared a little bit more than I can cover, I think, but that's okay. We can always do what we don't cover today next week. So let's get right to it. Share screen. Okay, so last time, this is what we did. We talked briefly about different scriptures of Hinduism, Shrutis. There are 4 Vedas, and those are Shrutis. Smritis, what is remembered, or things that lay out the law of the land. In fact, Bhagavad Gita is actually one of the Smritis. Then we mentioned Manusmriti, which is probably the most celebrated Smriti. And Itihasas, these are epics. Mahabharata and Ramayana are the most celebrated ones. And then Puranas, there are 18 of them. And then we talked a little bit about the modern view of matter and energy and the Sankhya philosophy. And chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita says, at the beginning, when Lord Krishna talks to Arjuna, he's saying that the self is imperishable, much like the energy matter ensemble, right? And the all-pervading entity called the Brahma is the same in you and me. And this idea is what we call Advaita. Advaita meaning non-dualism. In other words, thou art that. You and I, essentially at the most fundamental level, are the same. This is basically the foundation upon which we say, when we greet each other, namaste, I bow down to the same divine presence inside you that resides in me. That's the elaborate meaning of that. It's not just a hello, it's not just a hi. We also looked at some selected verses from chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita. And then we said, look, there are different philosophies, and the Sankhya and Yoga are kind of a related pair. Today, I hope I'll be able to get into yoga, which is the kind of the other twin of the pair, Sankhya and Yoga. Now, what is yoga? Last time we said it's a destination as well as a system of tools and techniques designed for us to be able to realize our true nature, or to be free from bondage. And that key word that I told you last time to remember is moksha. No other religion that I know of has that concept, moksha. Any questions from last time, or anything that we have done in the past or have not done in the past? Any questions? Any thoughts, any comments? No? Okay. Please feel free to stop me, interrupt me, ask questions, or make comments, okay? We are here to learn together. I'm not a sage on stage at all. because whenever you say something that kind of, I don't know, prompts some kind of discussion, propels our discussion forward, which is beneficial for everyone. Okay, this is the first slide that we created together. You guys contributed to, all the different ideas of what spirituality means and why people need it. As I said before, I'll keep showing this for every single time that I, do a session. Remember, we talk about peace of mind, be more productive, be more efficient in what you're doing, and that kind of thing. Be free from the overly materialistic point of view. Connect with God, connect with others and ourselves. And somebody mentioned love. Understand our values, somebody said. So these are all, I keep reminding ourselves what we were seeking, okay? There's a difference between seeking and searching. Seeking is, you're looking for something that you don't know whether it exists or not. Searching is, the activity that you do to look for something that you know it exists. Okay, so we are seeking and then searching. All right. I want to start with a little YouTube video that Richard Dawkins made. Richard Dawkins, of all people, he's an avowed atheist. However, I take some of the wisdom that he shares I'm going to look at it from a spiritual point of view. If you look at it, I actually meant to bring a live leaf, but I forgot to do that. So take a look at that leaf. This leaf takes energy from the sun, makes sugars, and sends food to other parts of the leaf and the plant with the help of this natural engines going on. There's so many different natural machines or wheels, if you like, inside the leaf. We eat plants, so we get our energy, all the energy that we have, actually indirectly from the sun. So the sun is a source of all the energy we have on Earth, and it gets better. The genetic code that's used by a leaf is the same as that is used by you and me. Think about that. The genetic code is exactly the same. And even the genes are 50% the same. So the plants and we are cousins. This is not my expression, the Richard Dawkins expression. So this goes really well with the Sankhya philosophy that we talked about. The self is all pervading, and it's the essence of everything that exists. In other words, at the most fundamental level, it's pretty much the same, Brahma. Last time I mentioned there are 6 different Vedic philosophies of Hinduism. What are they? Okay, so let me pause for a second. I said Vedic philosophies, right? There are philosophies that are not Vedic. For example, Buddhism rose or came out of Hinduism. Buddhism rejects the supreme authority of the Vedas. So does Jainism. So does Charvakas. Charvakas are atheists or materialists. They reject this. But the main, like when we say Hinduism, Vedic philosophy is what we mean. So there are different kinds of Vedic philosophies. What does that mean? Each of these philosophies takes cues or knowledge from the Vedas. We already familiarized ourselves with Sankhya and yoga. What is Sankhya? It's a model of the universe, Purusha and Prakriti, spirit and matter. Who came up with this? Kapila Maharshi, Kapila. One thing I want to emphasize is that Sankhya philosophy actually doesn't mention God, Ishvara. That comes in yoga, though. In yoga, there is a concept of Ishvara, the Atman. Atman is the self that's residing in you. Yoga is a practical tool or yoga, I would say, consists of practical tools and techniques to help us realize our true nature. All the yoga shastra or science of yoga is based on the book by this ancient rishi named Patanjali. So we say Patanjali Yoga. Now, Vedanta, obviously, is the either the summary of all the Vedas, concept of Brahma, Advaita, and all that stuff. We usually credit sage Vyasa for the Vedanta. And then Mimamsa are rituals. So if you go to the temple, you'll see things like, decorating an idol with flowers and, pour ghee on the idol and things like that. So all kinds of rituals and observances. You can achieve peace of mind and stability of mind through those rituals also. We should not sneeze at them. I'll tell you a little bit about that later on, about rituals, but for now, that's definitely one of the 6 philosophies of Hinduism. And who came up with that? Jaimini. And then Vaisheshika is looking at the nature of matter. In fact, the Hindus came up with the terms like Anu. Anu is atom. Paramanu is nucleus. And Kannada Maharshi, right? He is credited for Vaisheshika philosophy of Hinduism. And then finally, Nyaya. So I color-coded these together. The orange ones are kind of twins, and the blue ones are kind of twins, and the purple ones are kind of twins. So Sankhya and Yoga go together, Vedanta and Mimamsa go together, and Vaisheshika and Nyaya go together. Any questions? Any comments? You sure? Okay. Okay, so now I need, I'm going to ask Rupa Auntie to recite. Remember last time we said, Lord Krishna was talking about Sankhya philosophy. Yourself is never destroyed. It's all pervading, and it has always been there, right? Now, okay, let me actually, right. So let me put this in context. So Lord Krishna says, now I just told you about Sankhya. Now listen to the wisdom of yoga, he says. So let's listen to the Sanskrit pronunciation of that verse. So let's do 239, please.
Esha te bihita sankhye buddhi yoge tvimam shrunu buddhya yukto yayah partha karma bandham prahasyasi.
So Lord Krishna says, okay, you just heard what I told you about Sankhya philosophy, the eternity of the spirit and all that stuff. But now listen to the wisdom of yoga, knowing which and practicing which you shall cast off the bonds of action. What does that mean? You can be free. You can be liberated. You will be free from fear and anxiety and pain. And in fact, this is the Krishna creed. In fact, Krishna really advocates being free, doing work, doing what you need to do, doing your job well. Put a single-minded focus on the job at hand, on the task at hand. That's how you can be liberated, or that's how we can liberate yourself. This is the essence of Krishna creed. In fact, this yoga is called karma yoga. There are different kinds of yoga. So the whole Bhagavad Gita is mostly about karma yoga. It also talks about bhakti yoga and things like that. But at the end, in chapter 12, he actually mentions karma, or the action is superior to anything else. Okay, just think about this. Isn't that real common sense? You don't have to, think, like elite thoughts and things like elegant thoughts, or just do your work. So focus on what you need to do. This is such common sense approach to being happy. If you notice, most of our anxieties and pain and suffering comes from the feeling that we are not doing our job properly. But so focus all your attention into the thing that you need to do. Okay. And the next verse, okay, let's hear the Sanskrit. I'll explain, please. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah. Nehabhikramanashosti pratyavayo na vidyate swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat.
So the key word is swalpam. Even a little bit of this knowledge and practice can give you results. There's no waste of effort. That's what he's saying. In this, that means in practicing yoga, there's no effort that's wasted, and there's no harm that you do to your body or mind. In other words, your brain doesn't go haywire. You don't get confused if you just stick to what you need to do. Even a little knowledge of this and practice of this will protect you from fear. What kind of fear? Irrational fear and anxieties, and probably anger too. And he goes on and on about the need to be detached from the rewards and personal gains. And then one of the most often quoted verses in Bhagavad Gita comes next, 247. Again, there are a few verses which are kind of re-emphasizing, reiterating the points that he already made. And now he says to Arjuna, 247. Go ahead.
Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kathachana ma karma phalaheturbhuh ma te sankostya karmani.
Okay, so Lord Krishna is saying that I kind of reduced it so you can see the whole text. Your right is only to work. You can do the action that is required, but you cannot expect or you cannot be entitled to specific results every single time you do something, because the results can depend on some unknown factors. So personal reward or gain, may that not be your motivation. Don't do this for money or fame or recognition. Don't. That said, Lord Krishna says, immediately adds, but don't indulge in inaction either. You have to do the work that you need to do. Okay, so I can give you so many different examples. This is such an amazing, powerful message. It doesn't matter what religion or caste or creed or age you are. You can apply this to your daily life. Common sense approach to being free of bondage. Do the work that you need to do. This is my one-liner. I tell my kids all the time: do what you need to do first before you do what you want to do. I just made that up. Same thing. Focus on your work, and then think of doing the work as a means to improve yourself. It's a self-improvement thing that you need to think about. Whenever you do work, whenever you put in your best, you improve yourself, and the results will come. The right results will come. Don't worry about them. Now, immediately I have to say this. Lord Krishna does not say, don't expect any result. That's not what he is saying. This is a very often misunderstood quote from the Bhagavad Gita. He said, don't worry at all about the result. No, that's not what he's saying. Suppose I'm investing in stocks and bonds. I want the best return. If something doesn't work, if a particular stock doesn't work, I'll go to another stock, another bond or index fund or something. But I should not beat myself up for any kind of negative results, because it's not within my control to dictate a particular result. That's what he's saying. So when I talk to kids during that Vishu gathering, I said, that's the example that I was thinking of at the time. So you can definitely expect milk in the refrigerator, but when you go open the refrigerator, if you don't find milk, don't kick the refrigerator. Don't let that get to you, because the bad result is not your fault. It has to do with something else. Maybe you can change your strategy, that's fine. A lot of people say, when they say, like, don't look for results, so they give up all desires. That's not what it is. Give up craving. Craving is different from desire. If you don't have any desires, you're not different from a piece of rock. So, for example, KHNJ wants to do a grand Onam festival. That's a desire. We want to do that. So we will do whatever we can to make that successful, that event successful. Suppose on the day it rains or something like that. That should not be a source of disappointment, because what we should think then is we did everything we could, knowing what we knew. Okay. Nobody can foretell the future, and the future is not in our hands. But you definitely need to do the work that you need to do. Okay. In fact, there can be a whole seminar based on this verse, but since we don't have that much time, I have to move on. Let's hear 248, and then I'll talk about that too.
Yogastat kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate.
So similar idea, perform action, O Dhananjaya. Oh, by the way, in ancient Indian literature, especially in Bhagavad Gita, you'll see people addressing others with names. People have different names depending on the context. So here, Arjuna, even in this page, you can see first he was called O Partha. Partha is a name of Arjuna. So is Dhananjaya, and each name has a different meaning. And Vyasa, the person who wrote this, was very clever in using appropriate name for each verse. That's, again, I don't have the time to go so much deep into that, but you have to know that Sanskrit literature is very context based in every sense of the word. So he's saying, O Dhananjaya, perform action and stay steadfastly committed to yoga. Being steadfast in yoga, abandoning attachment and balanced in success and failure. It doesn't matter whether you succeed or fail. Well, again, this message is not unique to Bhagavad Gita. If you look at all the wonderful Western leaders, this is the same thing. What success? It's a process from failure to failure to failure to failure. Finally, you succeed. Success is not easy to define. Do not be afraid of failure. Failure means what? You have an opportunity to learn from your mistake. No one succeeds all the time. Again, very common sense, practical way of looking at life. With that introduction to yoga, I want to say a little bit, I'm going to switch gears a little bit and then talk about the yoga industry. Okay, yoga in the US, it's huge. Approximately 27 million people actively practice yoga. By the way, the slide I took from my friend Rajesh Rabindranath. He's one of the founding members. as I am of Project Self. Okay, so yeah, yoga in the US is huge. To about 27 million people actively practice yoga, spends about $1.5 billion a year on yoga related products and services. And let me just come here, corporates, okay, academics, you can Harvard, Yale, Princeton, name any big university, they have a yoga or meditation mindfulness program. Corporates, Google and all these big places, they place so much emphasis now on yoga and meditation. Why? Because those who practice this, they increase their productivity, efficiency. And what is the bottom line for corporates, right? So yeah, corporate America is very, very heavily invested in yoga. So some of these companies, as I said, HBO has a Nike and Apple, they have a huge program, yoga related program. And personally, I like this book a lot, Search Inside Yourself. It's written by an engineer. He doesn't say something like that's not based on reasoning and evidence. So he's an engineer, his outlook is very scientific, and I would highly recommend this book. It's a pretty short book, Search Inside Yourself, okay? SIY. In fact, that book came out of a program at Google. Now everyone knows about Steve Jobs, and the only book that he downloaded in his iPad was the autobiography of a yogi. Anyway, so with that, I want to show you, oh yeah, a little bit before that, just a couple of words on Patanjali. Patanjali wrote 3 very, very important books, or I should say series of books. Ayurveda is a science of health. It's a holistic approach to health and healing. It's huge. Ayurveda is huge. So Patanjali is credited for Ayurveda. And Mahabhashyam is a treatise on Sanskrit grammar and communication and all that stuff. And in our context, Yoga Sutra. Yoga Sutra, it has about 196 sutra. Sutra means actually formula. It's a very short, concise version of what someone needs to do in order to practice yoga. Okay, so I'll be taking some cues from Yoga Sutra. You can easily Google this and download it and understand. It's easy to understand. Yoga Sutra is pretty simple. There's so many excellent English translations and YouTube videos on Yoga Sutra. I would highly recommend you all to look at it, Yoga Sutra. Now, yoga, the stuff that I want to talk about is Ashtanga Yoga. Ashta means literally 8. Anga means limbs. So you can think of this as the 8-part yoga. There are so many different parts to this. And the asanas or postures are just one of them. But the whole focus these days is on the asanas, which is not even that important. I mean, it is important, but it's not the most important thing. I mean, a lot of people practice meditation, and meditation is right here, dhyana, okay? It is one of the 8 parts of yoga. Now, I want to, at this point, I want to stop sharing this. So as I said before, I prepared a lot more I can cover, but I don't want to miss this opportunity. I want to share a video for you. Let's see. Any questions before I do that?
No, I'm okay.
Sorry? Any questions?
I think we're good.
Okay. All right. Do you see the screen?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, so let me see. Okay, there you go.
Meditation has been a part of my life ever since I can remember. I personally have.
Okay, just quick question. Is the sound and the video, is it clear?
Yeah, it's clear.
Okay, can you hear? Pay attention, because this woman is not much older than you guys, okay? And she's Indian, Mamata being Indian American. So I chose this one for a reason.
Have been practicing meditation for the last 5.5 years. And I've been a trainer for the last 8 months, but I'll get into that a little bit later. My college career has been unconventional, to say the least. I started out as pre-med and got halfway through my freshman year of college before realizing that really wasn't for me. And I switched my major about 4 times before finally landing on international studies and eventually choosing public health. And I think it took me a really long time to figure out what I wanted to do with my life for a few reasons. One, I'd always struggled with self-confidence, and I would set my standards for myself so high that anytime I failed to reach them or it felt like I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing, instead of finding strength from that situation, I would beat myself up and falter. And two, my idea of success and happiness and satisfaction up until recently were completely misguided. We live in a world that encourages this idea that in order to be internally satisfied, we have to rely on external circumstances. And this is an idea that's been hammered into our heads probably since we could understand what happiness and success and satisfaction were. And obviously, these are concepts that are different for different people at different times. So it could be the little things like spending time with friends and family or curling up with a good book. Or it could be getting good grades, getting the job you want, finding the person you're meant to spend the rest of your life with. While all of these things are great things, we're still relying on things outside of ourselves to make us happy. And this idea of external substantiation has been magnified with the increases in technology and the advent of social media. We can't really exist without our devices anymore. It's almost like our phones have become other body organs that we can't live without. And with no offense to anybody in this room, but I can guarantee that the second I'm done talking, the majority of you will probably subconsciously reach for your phone to check your texts. And social media. Social media has created this idea of false happiness and satisfaction. Nobody wants to share bad moments in their lives. No one wants to share their mistakes or their failures. So social media has made it seem that everyone is always successful and happy and satisfied all the time. But what if things don't go our way? What if we don't get the grade we want? The person we thought we were going to spend the rest of our lives with breaks up with us. Or we do get the job we want, but there's some sort of negative aspect to it, like our boss sucks or we have a horrible coworker. Suddenly, the concept that was providing us with internal satisfaction externally is now negative. So what I'm realizing more and more is that not only is our success temporary, but our happiness is conditional. We're only happy or satisfied because something outside of ourselves is making us happy and satisfied. We're never truly satisfied for the sake of being satisfied. And that's where I realized I was going wrong. So let me back up a little bit. Anybody who knows me knows that my entire life I had been on a one-way path to becoming a doctor. My whole family is filled with medical professionals, and at the age of 5, I declared that I was going to be just like them. And of course, my incredible Indian parents let out a huge sigh of relief because they didn't have to convince me to go into medicine. And for a long time, that's what I wanted to do until I started learning more about myself and my passions and my interests. And suddenly, becoming a doctor was less of what I wanted to do and more of what I felt obligated to do. Because my entire life, I had been taught that in order to be successful, you have to be a doctor. And I was always a weirdly compliant kid. I always knew my parents knew what was best for me. So instead of finding the confidence in myself to stand up for myself, I went along with it. Flash forward to my freshman year of college, and I was miserable. I was taking classes that I hated, and I was doing poorly in them. The person that I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with broke up with me the second he went to college. And I was still living at home, so I felt like I wasn't having the normal college experience. And after years of having a plan and a direction for my life, all of a sudden I was lost. And when you go through hard times, when you go through a breakup or whatever, everybody tells you to get out of the house, do things for yourself. And I did. I would hang out with friends. I would go curl up with a book at a bookstore. I joined our Bollywood fusion dance team at school. I would get a massage. But those were temporary satisfactions. I would still come home and still feel internally dissatisfied with myself. And social media became the bane of my existence. I would see my friends and my ex and all my classmates posting pictures of their new college adventures, their dorm rooms, their new friends, all these new things. And I felt like a failure for a couple of reasons. One, I didn't have anything to share on social media. I was still living at home. I didn't feel like I was having the conventional college experience. And two, as an Indian, I wasn't meeting the standard of success that had been dictated for me. I wasn't doing well to become a doctor. But because that was all I knew as success, I stuck with it. And my GPA and my self-esteem failed as a reason. So how did I change this? How did I turn my life around? Like I said, meditation has been a part of my life ever since I can remember. My dad has been practicing a form of meditation called Raja Yoga, or yoga of the mind, for over 35 years, and my mom started shortly after they got married. So just like people go to church or temple or synagogue, meditation is my way of life. It's all I've ever known. And I always knew that I was going to start practicing meditation at some point. And I tried it a couple times my freshman year of college, but anything at that point that my parents thought would be good for me or would help me get out of the rut that I was in, I was completely rebellious against. Thankfully for me, and very luckily, I have incredible friends, and I have to show off pictures of these guys because they are my whole world. I was very lucky to have friends who were not only starting their college careers, or they were halfway through their college careers, but they were going through similar things that I was, and they hadn't built up the resistance to meditation that I had. And one of my friends convinced me to go to a meditation retreat one week, and at first I cribbed and I fussed, and I wanted to stay in my own little bubble of self-pity misery. But in the end, I'm so glad I went because it was probably the best thing that could have happened to me. So what is meditation? I'm sure everybody here has a general idea in their head of what it is, but just to give a few more definitions. Meditation is an exercise that trains your mind to regulate itself. It's the ability to focus on one thing continuously without break. And if practiced properly and diligently, it's a consistent reconnection with your true inner self. And a lot of people brush the concept of meditation aside because we think, how do we function without our thoughts? How do we get through our day without thinking? And another thing that people don't realize is just like our bodies require physical activity to keep it strong and healthy and active, our minds are muscles that also require exercise and regulation to keep it strong and happy and healthy and active. And a lot of times, people neglect their minds because they forget this point. And if you think meditation is hard, you are absolutely right. It's very difficult to get your brain to shut up for longer than 5 seconds and not think about something else. And that's another reason why people don't try it out. The first time I sat down to meditate, it felt like every single thought I had ever had in my then 18 years of existence decided to come into my head at that exact moment. And no matter how many times I tried to push them away or ignore my thoughts or try to get into a state of thoughtlessness, they kept coming back. And I remember thinking, why am I doing this? Here's yet another thing in life that I'm failing at. Why am I even trying? The second time I sat down to meditate during that retreat, my thoughts decreased by a quarter. The third time I sat down to meditate during that retreat, they decreased by half. And gradually, it was as though I was starting to see the world in high definition. Not only could I see my external circumstances very clearly, but I was finally starting to see my true inner self with the objectivity and clarity that I had not had ever before. And the practice of meditation that I am a part of prescribes meditating twice a day for 1 hour each time. So once in the morning for an hour and once in the evening for an hour. And I'll be totally honest with you guys, it took me a very long time to get to a point where I was consistent with this. Some days I was doing a really great job. I'd get up in the morning, I'd meditate, I'd go to bed, and I'd meditate. Before I went to bed, I would meditate and I'd be fine. But other days, more bad days than good days, I would just be downright lazy. And I would choose to stay up all night watching Ellen videos and then, wake up late the next morning instead of meditating. And my rationale for this was like, I'm young. I got the rest of my life to work on my meditation practice. I don't have more time to watch Ellen videos. But I think it took me a long time to connect with my meditation practice because I wasn't accustomed to the silence that came with meditation. I think as humans, we thrive on noise because it makes us feel as though we're doing something. And so I'd sit to meditate, and about 5 to 10 minutes in, I would realize I was craving noise. I needed some sort of distraction. So I'd give up on meditating, and I'd immediately reach for my phone or for my laptop. And what this taught me was I'd come to a point where I hated silence. And this also taught me how loud my world was. And noise is not just sound or cacophony. Noise is the frustration you feel with a family member or a friend. It's writer's block. It's not understanding a concept at school. Anything is noise if it's loud enough to distract us. And so I realized that I'd come to hate silence, It made me examine my routine, and I realized I couldn't get it through a day without sound or noise or distractions of some sort. I would wake up in the morning and I would meditate half-heartedly before giving up because it got too hard. And I'd immediately reach for my phone or for my laptop. And I would play music and videos while I was getting ready for school or while I was eating breakfast. I would drive to school with music on. I would get to class and I'd be fine, and then about halfway through class, I'd zone out thinking about the video I watched that morning. And there'd be so much chaos coming around me and in me because of my thoughts and all these distractions that I'd come home and feel frustrated and let out that frustration on my family members because I didn't know what to do with it. And I'd start my homework and feel frustrated because I wasn't understanding the concepts, but that's because I had music on in the background. And then I'd try to sit down and meditate at the end of the day, and I'd give up again because there was so much going on in my head, and I'd get annoyed when I couldn't fall asleep, and then I'd get frustrated because I felt like I wasn't progressing in my meditation practice. So what this taught me was that in order to create a true connection with my inner self, I had to learn how to love silence. And in order to learn how to love silence, I had to really use my willpower and commit to my meditation practice. And in order to sustain the love for silence that I had cultivated internally, my internal environment had to interact with my external environment. And so the more and more I meditated, the more I started to learn how to love silence internally, the more my internal environment began to reflect my external environment. And that's when I started to see the changes in myself that I wanted to see. So here are a few. How meditation creates interaction with the internal with the external. Confidence. Like I said earlier, I've always lacked in self-confidence, but creating a consistent reconnection with my inner self drove that fear of confidence away. Suddenly I was able to stand up for myself. I was feeling more confident within myself, and it gave me the courage to eventually switch my major to international studies and eventually get rid of this idea that in order to be successful, I had to do something big. Replacing the positive with the negative. Like I said before, we may get the job that we want, but there's always going to be some sort of aspect about it that ends up becoming negative or something that we don't want to deal with, and all of a sudden the entire environment becomes negative. Cultivating a connection with my internal self through meditation has allowed me to see the positive in any situation, regardless of what it is. Exercise. Not just exercise of the mind, but exercise of the body. When you're taking care of yourself internally, you're given the ability to take care of yourself externally as well. Communication. I seem like I talk a lot up here, but I'm actually pretty non-assertive most of the time. And so by creating a connection with myself through meditation constantly, I was able to say the things I needed to say, speak up for myself when I needed to. Minimizing stress and anxiety, being able to create confidence in myself made me take on challenges without any worry or fear. And staying in the present moment. It's easier to live in the past. It's more fun to live in the future, but it's better to stay in the moment. And that's what meditation does for you. Compassion, tolerance, acceptance, being able to see everyone as their true selves because of reconnecting with myself. And willpower. Meditation is hard. But if you can create the willpower to stop your brain from thinking long enough, you can pretty much create the willpower to do just about anything. And the capacity to love. As corny as this sounds, the more and more I was able to love myself, the more I was able to love everything around me. There was only one time in my life that I really strayed away from my meditation practice, and that was when I was working on President Obama's re-election campaign. This is the day my dad and President Obama went public with their bromance. Anybody knows anything about a campaign knows that the energy there is so strong that you really don't need much of anything else to sustain you. And I realized that I was trying to take the energy from this campaign and use it in my daily life. But once again, I was relying on external circumstances to make me feel good internally. I got to do a lot of really cool things. My senior year of college, I got to go on a study abroad trip to Europe to study human rights. Got to be on our Right States accredited Model United Nations team. But it became less about the big things that I was doing and more about committing to my meditation practice, committing to my internal self, and making sure that all the values that I created within myself were expressed in everything I did so that I did what I was supposed to do to the best of my abilities. And when I was very fortunate to get the internship with the United Nations, I carried that same mentality with me. So what I'm learning more and more is that we shouldn't have to rely on external circumstances to make ourselves internally satisfied. True success comes when you take the time every single day to work on yourself internally and cultivate the values that you want to see in yourself internally. and then being able to hold on to those values and express them in any external circumstance, whether they be positive or negative. One of my best friends, Suraj, she actually just recently wrote a blog post about this. We think that change is going to come to us as we get older. We think we'll learn how to cook when we move out. We think we'll exercise more when we really need it. But that's not the case. We will learn how to cook when we choose to learn how to cook. We will learn to work out and exercise when we choose to learn to work out and exercise. My internal sense of self didn't change until I made the choice to change my internal sense of self. And to me, true success is being able to learn about myself more and more every single day with my meditation practice and using that and expressing it in any situation that I'm put in. Thank you.
Okay. Any takeaways? We have 10 more minutes. So I want to hear your thoughts on what you just watched.
I feel like it was really important because it like made me personally reflect like on what I want and not to pressure myself on certain things.
Okay, there was some audio problem there.
Oh yeah, I think it's because me and my dad are like both having our audio on.
Okay. Yeah, can you try again with maybe go to a different room? Okay, all right. Somebody else, please.
It made me realize that I need to stop relying on external factors for my own happiness.
Yeah, can I
And,
actually, do you mind if I take notes down as you speak?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Let's see here. Okay, so we just watched new slide. Okay, so how meditation changed my life by Mamata Venkat. So you said external. Say it again, Meera. Is that correct? Meera?
Yeah.
Is that what you wanted to say?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Others, please.
I think she also talked about how, like, we're always used to a lot of noise around us. And I realized how much I always just want to, like, be busy with something, and there's never truly a time where it's, like, complete silence.
Uh-huh. Okay. Used noise. I mean, so when she said noise, she actually meant something like a little bit broader than physical noise, right? Any sort of distraction, right? So noise for her meant distraction. Okay, others?
I think that the more times that we meditate, the less distracted we become each time, and our brain like clears its thoughts better every time.
Okay. Remember that word from Lord Krishna, swalpam, even a little bit. If you do it consistently, that can, give you benefit. Okay. Others? What were some of the benefits she was talking about at the end?
She talked about how it boosted her confidence.
Confidence. Yeah. Yep. What else?
She was also able to decide what she really liked and found what her interests were.
Okay. Knew what her interests. And you mentioned one more thing. I missed. I think I missed it. What was that? She figured out what her interests were.
I just said what her interests were, and then, like, I guess who she was as a person.
Sorry.
Who she was as a person.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, definitely look this up. Watch it again. Okay, how meditation changed my life. Mamita Venkat. Okay. Other comments about the video? Did you like it? Hello.
I thought it was very informative
Okay.
and helpful.
Okay. All right. Kritika, I mean, I think you weren't able to say what you wanted to say because there was some audio problem. You want to try it again?
Thank you. I just wanted to say that, like, I definitely relate to the problems that she like discussed, and it took me like a second to like reflect, about my own personal decisions, and made me realize that there's always options and ways to like kind of combat a lot of the stress with making tough decisions, like meditation.
Okay. Meditation helps with. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Sometimes when I type fast, I'm typing and then I'm thinking about what the person said. All right. Anybody else want to add something to it? I'm just going to give it meditation here. Meditation. Okay. Anybody else?
One thing that struck a chord with me, Prasadita, was when she said that it helped her live in the present. So that's always, that's very important to us.
Yeah, she mentioned, what did she say? It's fun to dwell in the past, and it's, what is it? What did she say? We always, find ourselves dwelling on the past, and it's fun to be, fun to, think about the future. It's always better to be in the present. Yeah, that's awesome. And she changed her life around, so I don't personally teach meditation, but I can give you, information about some exercises you can do. But if you really want to get into meditation, I think you should talk to your parents or find a program where you can take part in, and then be consistent with meditation. There are different kinds of meditation. I cannot teach it over Zoom anyway. So I will not do that. But please look into it. Look at other videos as well. I can share maybe next time other videos as well. Okay, so we're almost out of time. Let me stop sharing for a second. Before we go, any other parting thoughts or questions or comments? Anything at all? That one thing that she mentioned was Raja Yoga. So this is what Patanjali Yoga means. There are 8 parts to it. What time is it? It's 7:59, right? So let me just briefly go to the slide. Let me mention one thing real quick. So, this tree here, Ashtanga Yoga, this is what she was talking about, Raja Yoga. Now, the first thing is yama. Yama means prohibitions. Like there's certain things that are forbidden. You should never do them. And niyama are certain things that you should always do. There are 5 each. So together they can look like 10 commandments. So let me go to that slide briefly. So yama and niyama. Yama means something that you should never do. Do not do anything adharmic, okay? Adharmic means irresponsible. So practice the following 5 rules. Ahimsa, do not harm others or yourself. Satya, Satya means truthfulness, so do not ever lie. Asteya, Asteya means do not steal anything, other people's property or ideas or anything. Brahmacharya, Brahmacharya is usually translated into celibacy, but for our purposes, I just wanted to say, do not engage in inappropriate relationships. That's all I want to say about that. And then apagriha, aparigraha. Okay, sorry about that. Aparigraha means do not grab something that doesn't belong to you. Do not covet something that doesn't belong to you. Okay, and then niyama, 5 virtuous practices are shaucha, purity, cleanliness. I should say there should be cleanliness. Sorry, purity, cleanliness of body and mind. Do not think bad thoughts. And always make your body clean. Take a shower, or use soap or whatever. Cleanliness, both inside and outside, is very important. Santosha, contentment. Be content. Didn't say be satisfied. That's different. Contentment is different from satisfaction. Tapas. Tapas means discipline. You got to have discipline no matter what you do or where you go or what activity you engage in. Spiritual. We will talk more about this actually next time. Okay. And swadhyaya. Swadhyaya means swa means self. Adhyaya means study. So you got to study yourself. You should know. Try to know who you are as a person. Somebody mentioned that I think it was Kritika who said this girl, Mamata, what's her name? The girl who talked about meditation. She found a way to figure out who she was. Then Ishvara Pranidhana, that means prayer. We'll talk about prayer also. So these, by the way, these are not imposed by other people. These self-imposed rules. You got to impose these rules on yourself. If somebody else tells you, if your parents tell you to do this, you don't want to do it, but you got to do yourself. These self-imposed rules help you lead a conflict-free life. Okay, so we'll pick up exactly where we left off today. So exactly from that slide, we'll start next week, because I need to talk more about that, because each category has different things. Okay, all right. I think we went over a little bit, 3 minutes. I apologize, but I'll see you all next week. Have a wonderful week. Think about what we learned today and practice. Okay. A simple way to practice is to focus on your work, focus on who you are, focus on things that you can do easily. The yama and niyama you can easily do. You don't need any reference books for that. Okay.
Okay,
right.
thank you.
Another great session. Thank you so much, Prasad.
Thank you, Jata. Thank you,
Bye.
Prasada. Thank
Take
you.
care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rupa.